A Kentucky woman was charged with murder after she allegedly shot and killed her Uber driver because she falsely believed he was abducting her to Mexico. According to law enforcement, 48-year-old Phoebe Copas hailed an Uber driven by 52-year-old Daniel Piedra Garcia to go meet her boyfriend at the Speaking Rock Casino in the Texas border city of El Paso at approximately 2:20 p.m. on June the 16th of 2023. While en route to her destination, Copas reportedly saw signs that said Juarez, Mexico, and thought she was being taken over the border against her will. She then frantically grabbed a handgun and shot Piedra multiple times in the head, causing the vehicle to collide with barriers before coming to a stop on US 54 near Loop 375. The criminal complaint stated that Copas took a picture of the critically wounded driver and sent it to her boyfriend before calling 911. She was later arrested, and investigators determined that there was no evidence to support her claims. Originally, she was accused of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury, but the charge was amended to murder after Piedra died at a hospital on June the 21st. Copas was booked into the El Paso County Detention Facility on a $1.5 million bond, which was later lowered to a $500,000 split bond. As of the latest updates, she remained free on bond while awaiting trial. Number 8. Lemon Etute. After Lemon Etute was charged with murder, his lawyer filed multiple motions for him, most notably one that evolved around the gay panic defense. The 19-year-old responded to a Tinder dating app profile on April the 10th of 2021 and agreed to meet someone only identified as Angie for oral intercourse at her apartment in Blacksburg, Virginia. Not until Etute was questioned by some of his friends did he realize that Angie was actually a 40-year-old man named Jerry Smith. Etute returned to Smith's apartment on May the 31st and determined that Smith was biologically male. Apparently, when Etute confronted Smith, the latter grabbed the former's genitals. Etute subsequently struck Smith in the face. When he saw that Smith reached for a possible weapon under the bed, he struck him several more times. The following day, Smith's lifeless body was found at the apartment. A post-mortem examination revealed that he died of blunt force trauma to the head. The Roanoke Times reported Smith was missing his teeth and that every bone in the victim's face had been broken. Police found a knife between Smith's mattress and box spring. Etute was arrested on June the 2nd on a charge of second-degree murder. He admitted to authorities that he'd hit Smith 5 times and stomped on the victim before hearing bubbling and gurgling coming from Smith. Coincidentally, about a month after the incident, the state passed a bill restricting the use of the so-called gay panic defense, in which a defendant accused of homicide could receive a lesser sentence by saying they panicked after finding out the victim's sexual orientation or gender identity. According to the Roanoke Times, Etute's lawyer Jimmy Turk argued that the ban shouldn't be a factor in the trial since the crimes had already occurred before the bill was signed. The judge later ruled that the new legislation did not apply to the case. In May of 2022, Etute collapsed in tears as the verdict was being read. He was acquitted after the jury believed his self-defense argument. Number 7. Riley Ann Sebach. After allegedly witnessing a hit-and-run crash on the afternoon of October the 23rd of 2019, California man Justin Thompson followed an erratic driver to a gas station in Lake Elsinore and captured her frantic getaway on video. According to Thompson, he was driving near the intersection of Railroad Canyon Road and the 15 freeway when he saw a sedan crash into another vehicle and then leave the scene. Thompson told NBC4 that the distraught driver took off, driving at 90 miles per hour. The driver, later identified as 22-year-old Riley Ann Sebach, subsequently pulled into a Chevron gas station parking lot. Thompson followed Sebach and parked his minivan behind her sedan, pinning it into a parking space bordered by vacuum cleaners on one side and a curb on the other. Thompson then called 911. Before authorities arrived, Sebach went through a series of dangerous maneuvers to try and back around Thompson's minivan and over a curb. At one point, the front bumper of Sebach's car was ripped off. Sebach subsequently retrieved the bumper, which she strugglingly wedged into the car's back seat. While again attempting to drive away, she still couldn't, so she cried and begged Thompson to move his car. The man told her to get out of the vehicle and do the right thing. After backing up and moving forward one more time, Sebach was able to escape by reversing toward Thompson's direction, almost hitting him. Reports indicated that there were no reported injuries in connection with the incidents. A week later, Sebach was arrested for hit-and-run driving and was later ordered to participate in drug rehab. Number 6. James Miller. Like Lemon Etute earlier, Texas man James Miller avoided being convicted of murder and manslaughter after his lawyer used the defense often known as the gay panic law as the reason for killing his neighbor. The incident transpired in September 2015 after 32-year-old Daniel Spencer invited 66-year-old Miller to his East Austin home to drink and play music. According to the Austin American-Statesman, Spencer allegedly grew angry when Miller rejected his intimate advances. Miller testified that Spencer subsequently moved towards him brandishing a glass. He claimed that he stabbed Spencer with a knife twice because he felt that the man was going to hurt him. He noted that Spencer was 37 years younger and 8 inches taller than him. Despite dodging the murder and manslaughter charge, he was found guilty of criminally negligent homicide in April of 2018. Miller was sentenced to 10 years of probation and 6 months in prison. Additionally, he was ordered to complete 100 hours of community service and pay $11,000 in restitution to Spencer's family. Number 5. Eric Bryant. An Illinois man who was accused of cutting off a dead woman's head with a handsaw in the summer of 2020 told police he panicked because the corpse was beginning to decompose. Kimiko Armstrong's headless body was found wrapped in plastic and bedding when police officers conducted a well-being check on July the 23rd at her apartment in the 7400 block of South Chapel Avenue. The well-being check had been prompted after neighbors complained of a very bad smell coming from the home. According to Cook County prosecutors, narcotics were found in the 61-year-old's body, but no obvious trauma was discovered. It was unclear how she died, but the decapitation allegedly took place after her death. While the officers were at the home, 49-year-old Eric Bryant reportedly appeared from the kitchen where Armstrong's head was later found. Bryant ran out of the apartment and evaded capture. A handsaw was found in a bedroom along with documents, including tax and medical records in Bryant's name. Bryant was arrested days after law enforcement spotted him in an alley. In an interview with detectives, Bryant denied killing Armstrong, but admitted to removing her head after she died and seeking to dispose of the body. He was then held without bail on the charge of dismembering a human body. Jail records indicate that Bryant was found guilty of the charge and sentenced to 12 years behind bars. Number 4. Alexandra Mendez. Arizona woman Alexandra Mendez was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison for the death of Chris Owen in Glendale. The ordeal unfolded shortly after 6:30 p.m. on December the 19th of 2021, when 29-year-old Owen was riding his bike to work along Northern Avenue. For unknown reasons, 23-year-old Mendez, who was driving her Ford Fusion, subsequently collided with Owen. Upon impact, she immediately fled the scene westbound. Paramedics responded and transported Owen to a local hospital where he later died. According to the police, Mendez had consumed at least 5 alcoholic beverages while at an establishment called Coyote Cabaret shortly before the collision. Nearly a week after the incident, her vehicle was found abandoned in Buckeye. It reportedly had damage consistent with being involved in a car and bicycle collision. On January the 5th, Mendez surrendered to authorities and was jailed. She later pleaded guilty to leaving the scene of a deadly crash. As part of the deal, the prosecutors dropped the manslaughter charge. After Mendez was sentenced, the victim's family told ABC 15 they were aware that people involved in hit-and-run crashes weren't always caught and arrested. Because of that, they were thankful that Mendez was caught at all, but her father apparently wanted harsher punishments for those responsible for hit-and-run crashes and said that they would push for further action. Number 3. Philip G. Harrison. 51-year-old Kentucky man Philip G. Harrison was booked into Louisville Metro Corrections after he allegedly pulled a firearm in an apartment building on River Road, causing residents to abruptly vacate the premises. The incident began in the early hours of January the 9th of 2014 when a woman whom Harrison didn't know, apparently knocked on his door for unknown reasons. A verbal fight between the two ensued. At some point, Harrison decided to set off the fire alarm, which caused the residents of the building to panic. Louisville Metro Police responded to the location shortly after 2 a.m. According to the arrest report, Harrison was running around the third floor of the building with his handgun. The report also indicated that he was highly intoxicated and screaming obscenities while standing on his balcony. Harrison was ultimately arrested and charged with wanton endangerment, public intoxication, menacing, and disorderly conduct. Today's topic was requested by River Snow 7089 and ABC 2620. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Brittany Kiefer. On the night of August 9th of 2018, local police in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, responded to a report of a hit-and-run incident along Route 88. Police discovered that a teen named Emma Mae Nolfo, who'd been riding a bicycle without a helmet, was struck by a dark-colored BMW at around 10:30 p.m. The victim was transported to Jersey Shore Medical Center for treatment of a concussion, brain bleeding, and a fractured skull. Fortunately, she would recover after several weeks. It didn't take long for the Point Pleasant Borough Police Department and the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office Vehicular Homicide Unit to realize that 27-year-old Brittany Kiefer was the one that had struck the teen with her vehicle. According to authorities, the victim landed on the windshield of Kiefer's BMW, which Kiefer continued to drive for several feet before the girl rolled off the car. Instead of stopping to help Nolfo or call an ambulance, Kiefer drove away and called a friend, 29-year-old Kyle Ramos, to pick her up a few blocks away. Ramos reportedly assisted Kiefer in hiding the vehicle and attempted to have the vehicle repaired in an effort to hinder the investigation. Ramos and Kiefer turned themselves in a day after the incident. Ramos pleaded guilty to hindering apprehension or prosecution, while Kiefer pleaded guilty to leaving the scene of a major vehicle accident resulting in serious bodily injury. Prosecutors asked the Superior Court judge to lock up Kiefer for up to a year in county jail, but she instead received 50 hours of community service, a year's license suspension, and 3 years of probation during her sentencing in February of 2020. Additionally, she was ordered to pay a $2,500 fine. Kiefer avoided going to jail in part because she'd been suffering from anxiety and mental health issues. Angered by the penalty given to Kiefer, Nolfo's mother said there weren't real consequences for hitting a person with a car and driving away. Subsequent information indicated that Ramos was going to receive his sentence at a later date. However, it never became clear what sentence he received, if any. We have the opposite of this video's topic lined up for you after number 1, when quick thinking prevents things from going wrong. Stay tuned if you need to watch that one as well to calm your nerves again. Number 1. AliciaMarguerite Jones. AliciaMarguerite Jones was arrested in Las Vegas on multiple traffic offenses stemming from a crash that had seriously injured a police traffic officer on December the 21st of 2021. Records indicated that the 22-year-old's vehicle struck the officer as he rode his motorcycle eastbound on Charleston Boulevard near Rainbow Boulevard. Investigators believe that Jones then panicked and immediately drove away from the scene. The officer reportedly suffered serious but non-life-threatening injuries, including a broken left collarbone, a broken left tibia and fibula, and a broken left foot and toes. Jones later allegedly went back to the scene and was apprehended at a nearby apartment complex. She claimed to law enforcement that she didn't see the officer when she made the turn. She added that when she saw the officer had fallen to the ground, she frantically left the scene and went back home. She also admitted that she never got out of her vehicle to check on the officer. Jones was then booked at the Clark County Detention Center on charges of failure to stop at the scene of an accident, failure to give information to a party at a vehicle accident, failure to render aid, driving without a valid driver's license, operating a motor vehicle with a suspended license or registration, no proof of insurance, and failure to yield. According to the police, Jones also had an outstanding traffic warrant against her pending in Las Vegas Municipal Court. It is unclear how long she was sentenced to prison for, if at all. Number 8. Haley Moreno. In the afternoon of May the 31st of 2021, a California teen noticed a bear climbing over a brick wall at her Bradbury residence in the San Gabriel Valley foothills. As was captured by the property security camera, the mother bear was walking along the top of the wall with her 2 cubs when 17-year-old Haley Moreno's 4 dogs charged the wild animals and began barking at them. The bear cubs ran away, but their mother lingered behind and attempted to pick up the dogs, who continued their frantic barking. Speaking about the incident during subsequent media interviews, Moreno revealed that upon witnessing the bear trying to harm her pets, her instincts kicked in and she charged towards the animal herself. She gave the bear a forceful push, sending it tumbling over the other side of the brick wall. The teen then picked up her dogs and fled back into the house. The bear reportedly poked its head up one more time before wandering back behind the tree to join her cubs. A biologist with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife later indicated that the bear had likely viewed Moreno's dogs as a threat to her cubs and was thus acting on her motherly protective instinct when she attacked them. Moreno reportedly suffered a sprained finger during her brief altercation with the bear, while her dogs were left completely unharmed. Number 7. Chris Allen. In February of 2020, a video surfaced online in which a man prevented a distracted woman from being struck by a car while she was crossing the street in downtown Cincinnati, Ohio. The woman, who was looking down at her phone and wearing headphones as she walked across the roadway, was unknowingly entering directly into the path of oncoming traffic. A nearby pedestrian, later identified as 25-year-old Chris Allen, noticed the woman's predicament and sprinted towards her as a car was approaching. He pulled her out of the street, effectively saving her from an imminent collision with the vehicle. In a subsequent interview with Inside Edition, Allen advised people to stay off their phones when walking about the city, stating, "Your safety is everything." Number 6. Stephanie Lantz. In dramatic doorbell camera footage filmed at a home in Las Vegas, Nevada, 19-year-old Lauren Ray was captured trying to protect her pet dog from a frenzied pit bull. The video, which emerged in December of 2021 and promptly went viral online, showed Ray petting the pit bull on her front lawn for a couple of seconds before her own dog, Max, stepped outside as well. The other animal's presence sent the pit bull into hysterics, and Ray had to pick Max up to shield him from its subsequent attack. The teen began screaming as she struggled to keep the raging pit bull away from Max, which eventually caught the attention of an Amazon employee who was passing through the neighborhood. The quick-thinking delivery driver, identified as Stephanie Lantz, rushed to assist the imperiled young woman by standing between her and the pit bull. Lantz yelled, "Bad dog," as she hopped from side to side to keep the pit bull at bay, allowing Ray to bring Max back inside the house. A few days after the incident, Ray and her family publicly thanked Lantz for her brave actions during a press conference for local media outlets. The Amazon driver described how the teen's cries for help had made her think of her own child and stated she would hope someone would jump in and help her if she was in a similar situation. Number 5. David Fung. In the late summer of 2016, parts of Louisiana were ravaged by unprecedented flooding caused by prolonged rainfall, which ultimately resulted in 60 total deaths and the destruction of thousands of homes and businesses. A harrowing video broadcast on the CBS affiliate station WFAB showed a woman and her dog trapped in a red soft-top convertible that was sinking on the flooded streets of Baton Rouge. The woman reportedly began shouting, "I'm drowning," as her vehicle dipped beneath the surface of the floodwater. Her cries for help were heard by 3 men on a nearby boat, who promptly came to her rescue. One of the men, later identified by the New York Daily News as David Fung, immediately jumped into the water and pulled the woman out from the car's sunroof as the vehicle became completely submerged. After the woman was brought to the boat, she indicated that her dog was still beneath the surface, at which point Fung swam back down to find it. Moments later, the man emerged with the dog in his grasp and, along with the animal's owner, were able to get to safety unharmed. According to subsequent reports, the Louisiana floods, which occurred during a 10-day period in August of 2016, has been called the worst U.S. natural disaster since Hurricane Sandy in 2012. Number 4. Haley Strong. In the early morning hours of July the 5th of 2022, Ohio woman Haley Strong was driving home from an Independence Day celebration in Fairfield when she saw a building on fire about a mile away. The 23-year-old woman and her roommate swiftly sprung into action and drove directly towards the site of the flames, which had engulfed the garage of a nearby residence. As was captured by the house's doorbell camera, Strong ran to the front door and started banging on it to alert the homeowners of the perilous situation unfolding in their garage. She pounded on the front door for about 2 minutes before the residents, identified as Brittany Downing and Josh Ellis, finally answered. It later emerged that the couple had been in their bedroom watching the popular Netflix series Stranger Things, while their 9 children were asleep when they heard Strong at the front door. Downing and Ellis gathered their family and quickly evacuated the home, which at that point had begun to catch fire as well. In the incident's aftermath, Downing thanked Strong in a Facebook post, which was uploaded along with a screenshot that had been taken from her doorbell camera. Strong later reunited with the family, all of whom were left unharmed, thanks to her quick thinking. As of the latest updates on the matter, investigators were still working to ascertain the original cause of the garage fire. Number 3. Richard Wilbanks. On a Sunday morning in late October of 2020, Florida man Richard Wilbanks was walking with his dog, Gunner, by the pond near his home in Estero when he had an alarming encounter with an alligator. According to subsequent reports on the matter, they were walking along the shoreline when suddenly the massive reptile, which was estimated to have been about 4 feet long, quickly emerged from the water and lunged itself towards the dog, a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Gunner, having been trapped within the alligator's jaws, was then dragged into the water, but his quick-thinking owner immediately jumped into action to save him. Wilbanks reportedly leapt into the pond and pried his beloved pet from the gator's grasp. Upon releasing Gunner, however, Wilbanks himself became the target of the reptile's attack as it latched its teeth onto his hand. The man eventually managed to free himself, and he, along with his dog, stumbled back to his nearby house, dripping blood. After stitching up his injured hands himself, Wilbanks took Gunner to an animal hospital, where doctors discovered that he had water in his lungs as well as a puncture wound on his body. Subsequent x-rays indicated that the animal was free of any serious internal injuries, and he was ultimately allowed to return home after only a few days. Number 2. The heroic Texas inmates. A group of inmates being held in custody in Parker County, Texas, broke out of their cell in order to render aid to a corrections officer who was experiencing a medical emergency on June the 23rd of 2016. The incident, which was documented in security camera footage later released to the public, began while the jail guard, identified as Gary Grimm, was chatting with the inmates in their cell. In the middle of their conversation, Grimm slumped over in his chair, unconscious. The inmates, who were being held in a minimum security holding room in the basement of the Parker County District Courthouse, were initially unsure of what to do, as there was no one else within earshot to help the incapacitated officer. However, a few seconds later, the inmates were shown on the surveillance video forcing the cell door open, at which point they discovered that the guard wasn't breathing and had no discernible pulse. They banged on the walls in an attempt to get the attention of others in the building, and even tried using the officer's radio to call for assistance. A sheriff's deputy and another corrections officer in the building eventually went to the basement to investigate the clamor, whereupon they called for emergency medical personnel, who were ultimately able to stabilize Grimm's condition. Subsequent reports indicated that the latter, who'd suffered a heart attack on the day he was rescued by the quick-thinking inmates, medically retired from his position in December of 2017, after more than 20 years of working security at Texas prisons and jails. Number 1. Savannah Jones. California teen Savannah Jones was babysitting her 4-year-old niece on February the 28th of 2017 when she heard someone knocking on the front door of her family's Montclair residence. She looked through the peephole and saw a man whom she didn't know standing outside. The stranger then tried turning the doorknob, prompting Jones to grab her little niece and lock themselves in her mother's bathroom. It was later detailed how the teen subsequently heard 3 loud bangs outside the bathroom door, indicating the man had somehow entered the house. Although Jones reportedly wanted to call the police, she chose instead to text her mother for fear of the intruder hearing her voice. After receiving Jones's frantic messages, her mother contacted both the police and the next-door neighbor. The latter walked over to the front of the house and began shouting Jones's name, which successfully scared off the burglar. Moments later, officers arrived at the home and discovered that the unidentified suspect had ransacked a room just a few feet away from where Jones and her niece were hiding, dumping various items from the closet and drawers onto the bed. The intruder ultimately fled without stealing anything, and the police credited Jones's quick thinking with preventing anything worse from happening. Thanks for watching. Would you rather sing in front of a full stadium or participate in the running of the Bulls in Spain? Let us know in the comment section below.